In a small, quiet town nestled in the heart of America, where everyone seemed to know each other's names and stories, there lived a bright and ambitious teenager named Maya Thompson. At just 16 years old, Maya had already carved out a reputation for herself as one of the smartest students in her school. She was passionate about learning, spending hours devouring books on history, science, and anything else she could get her hands on. But despite her intelligence and hard work, life wasn't easy for Maya. Her family struggled financially, often having to stretch every dollar to make ends meet. On top of that, Maya faced another challenge, one that weighed heavily on her: daily life, racism. The town had its share of racial divides, subtle but ever-present. People like Maya, who came from minority backgrounds, were often treated differently. Sometimes it was in little ways, like being followed around in stores by employees who assumed they might steal something. Other times, it was more blatant, like hearing whispered comments or seeing looks of disapproval when walking down the street. Despite these challenges, Maya refused to let negativity define her. She dreamed big and worked tirelessly to create a better future for herself and her family. One crisp autumn evening, everything changed. Maya was walking home from school, her backpack slung over one shoulder and her mind buzzing with thoughts about an upcoming math competition. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the sidewalks. As she passed by a small convenience store, she noticed a police car parked nearby. Officer Greg Harris, a tall man with a stern face and a reputation for being tough, stepped out of his vehicle. He approached Maya with a frown, his hand resting casually on the holster of his gun. "Hey, you," he called out, his voice sharp and commanding. "What are you doing here?" Maya stopped in her tracks, confused. "I'm just walking home," she replied politely, making sure to keep her tone calm and respectful. "Is there a problem?" Officer Harris narrowed his eyes, studying her carefully. "Someone reported suspicious activity around here," he said gruffly. "You fit the description." Maya blinked, taken aback. Suspicious activity? Fit the description? What did that even mean? She hadn't done anything wrong. She was simply heading home after a long day at school. Still, she knew better than to argue. Instead, she tried explaining herself again. "I go to Lincoln High School," she said, gesturing toward the direction she'd come from. "I live 2 blocks away. I'm just trying to get home." But Officer Harris wasn't listening. His gaze swept over her clothes, a plain hoodie and jeans, and lingered on her backpack. To him, she looked like someone who didn't belong in this neighborhood, someone who might cause trouble. Without bothering to ask further questions or check if anyone inside the store had actually seen anything unusual, he pulled out his notepad and began writing up a citation for trespassing. Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment and anger. How could this be happening? She hadn't trespassed anywhere. Yet here she was being accused of something she hadn't done, all because of the color of her skin. As Officer Harris handed her the ticket, he smirked, his expression dripping with mockery. "You think you're so special, huh?" he sneered. "Good luck getting anywhere in life, kid. People like you don't usually amount to much." Those words stung deeply, cutting straight to Maya's core. For a moment she wanted to cry, but instead she clenched her fists and swallowed her tears. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her breakdown. With trembling hands she took the ticket and walked away, vowing silently to prove him wrong. That night, Maya sat at the kitchen table, staring at the crumpled piece of paper in front of her. The unfairness of what had happened gnawed at her. She knew she couldn't let this slide, not just for herself, but for others who might face similar situations. If officers like Greg Harris could act however they pleased without consequences, then nothing would ever change. Determined to fight back, Maya decided to take the matter to court. She would contest the citation, not just to clear her name, but to send a message that no one should be treated unjustly based on prejudice. The idea of going to court terrified her. After all, she was only 16, and she had never been involved in anything legal before. But Maya had always been resourceful. Over the next few days, she spent hours researching online, reading articles about civil rights laws and watching videos of courtroom proceedings. She learned about procedures, evidence requirements, and how to present a case effectively. It was overwhelming at first, but the more she studied, the more confident she became. Her breakthrough came when she visited the local library to gather additional resources. There she met Mr. Anderson, a retired attorney who spent his afternoons reading newspapers and sipping coffee. When he saw Maya poring over thick law books, he struck up a conversation. Intrigued by her determination, he offered to help her prepare for the hearing. Together they pored over documents, crafted arguments, and rehearsed possible scenarios. Mr. Anderson marveled at Maya's quick thinking and natural talent for logic. "You've got a gift," he told her one afternoon. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." As the court date drew closer, Maya grew nervous but resolute. She practiced her speech until she could recite it in her sleep. She gathered security footage from nearby businesses that showed she hadn't loitered or caused any disturbance. She also reached out to classmates who had witnessed the encounter, asking them to testify on her behalf. Every detail mattered, and Maya left nothing to chance. On the morning of the hearing, Maya woke up early, her stomach churning with anxiety. She dressed neatly, wanting to look professional and composed. As she walked into the courthouse, she noticed Officer Harris standing near the entrance, chatting with a colleague. He glanced at her briefly, a smug grin spreading across his face. Clearly, he didn't expect her to put up much of a fight. That smirk fueled Maya's resolve even more. Today she would show him, and everyone else, that she was far stronger and smarter than they gave her credit for. Little did Maya know, this day would mark the beginning of a journey that would not only vindicate her, but also inspire countless others. Her courage and perseverance were about to shine brighter than ever before, proving that even in the face of injustice, one person's voice can make all the difference. After deciding to fight the unjust citation, Maya threw herself into preparation with a determination that surprised even those closest to her. Her days were filled with juggling schoolwork, family responsibilities, and hours of legal research. Every free moment became an opportunity to learn more about the law and how it worked. At first, the task seemed overwhelming. The language used in legal texts was dense and confusing, filled with terms Maya had never heard before. But she didn't let that stop her. She broke down each concept bit by bit, taking notes and creating flashcards to help her understand. Slowly but surely, she began piecing together the puzzle. Her breakthrough came when she discovered online videos of real-life courtroom cases. Watching attorneys argue their points gave Maya insight into how to present her case effectively. She noticed patterns, how they structured their arguments, how they addressed judges, and how they responded to opposing counsel. Inspired, Maya started practicing in front of a mirror, rehearsing what she would say in court. She imagined every possible question or objection the judge might raise and prepared answers for them. By the time she finished drafting her opening statement, she felt ready, or as ready as anyone could be under the circumstances. One afternoon, while sitting in the local library surrounded by stacks of borrowed books, Maya caught the attention of Mr. Anderson, a retired attorney who frequented the place. He was an elderly man with thinning gray hair and glasses perched on the tip of his nose. His sharp eyes scanned the room constantly, always searching for something interesting to read. On this particular day, he noticed Maya hunched over a table, scribbling furiously in a notebook. Curious, he approached her. "What are you working on?" he asked kindly, gesturing toward the pile of law books scattered around her. Maya looked up, startled. For a moment she hesitated, unsure whether to share her story with a stranger. But there was something trustworthy about Mr. Anderson's warm smile, so she decided to open up. "I'm preparing for a court hearing," she explained. "A police officer gave me a ticket for trespassing, but I didn't do anything wrong. I want to fight it." Mr. Anderson raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "That's quite ambitious for someone your age," he said. "Mind if I take a look at what you've got so far?" Reluctantly, Maya handed him her notes. To her surprise, Mr. Anderson didn't dismiss her efforts. Instead, he nodded thoughtfully, impressed by the level of detail she had included. "You're onto something here," he told her. "But you'll need more than just passion to win in court. Let me help you." From that day forward, Mr. Anderson became Maya's mentor. They met regularly at the library, poring over documents and discussing strategies. He taught her how to organize her evidence, how to anticipate counter-arguments, and most importantly, how to remain calm under pressure. Under his guidance, Maya transformed from a nervous teenager into a confident advocate for herself. Together, they built a strong case. First, they gathered security footage from nearby businesses. One camera captured Maya walking past the convenience store at the exact time Officer Harris claimed she had been loitering. Another showed her continuing along her route home without stopping. These clips proved beyond doubt that Maya hadn't violated any laws. Next, they reached out to witnesses, classmates and neighbors who had seen the incident unfold. Several agreed to testify on Maya's behalf, confirming her version of events. But perhaps the most crucial piece of evidence came from within the police department itself. Through a public records request, Maya obtained Officer Harris's report from that night. Upon reviewing it, she noticed glaring inconsistencies. For instance, the officer claimed that the store owner had called to report suspicious activity, yet no such call appeared in the department's log. Additionally, his description of Maya's actions contradicted what the security footage clearly showed. This discovery strengthened Maya's argument significantly. As the court date approached, Maya grew increasingly anxious. She knew the stakes were high, not just for her personally, but for others like her who faced similar injustices. Winning this case wasn't just about clearing her name. It was about sending a message that prejudice had no place in the justice system. Still, doubts lingered in her mind. What if the judge dismissed her claims? What if Officer Harris managed to twist the facts in his favor? Despite these fears, Maya refused to back down. She reminded herself why she was doing this, to prove that people shouldn't be judged based on stereotypes or assumptions. On the morning of the hearing, Maya woke up early, her heart pounding with anticipation. She dressed carefully, choosing a simple yet professional outfit, a navy blue blazer over a white blouse paired with black pants. Her mother helped her pin her hair back neatly, offering words of encouragement. "You're going to do great," her mom said, giving her a tight hug. "We're all so proud of you." When Maya arrived at the courthouse, she found it buzzing with activity. Reporters milled about outside, eager to cover the unusual case of a teenage girl taking on a veteran police officer. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Maya spotted Officer Harris sitting near the front row, chatting casually with another officer. His demeanor exuded confidence, almost as though he expected the entire ordeal to blow over without consequence. When their eyes met briefly, Maya saw the same smirk that had infuriated her during their initial encounter. It fueled her determination even more. The courtroom itself was small but imposing, with wooden benches and a raised platform where the judge sat. As Maya took her seat, she glanced around nervously. The room was packed with spectators, friends, family members, curious onlookers, and even a few classmates who had come to support her. Their presence reassured her slightly, reminding her that she wasn't alone in this fight. Finally, the bailiff called for everyone to rise as Judge Carter entered the room. A middle-aged woman with a stern expression and a reputation for fairness, Judge Carter wasted no time getting down to business. After brief introductions, Maya was called to present her case. Taking a deep breath, she stood up and walked to the podium, her legs feeling like jelly beneath her. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air as all eyes turned to her. Then, Maya began speaking. Her voice trembled at first, but as she delved into her argument, it grew steadier. She laid out the facts clearly and concisely, presenting her evidence one piece at a time. She played the security footage, pointing out key moments that contradicted Officer Harris's account. She called her witnesses, who corroborated her story. And finally, she addressed the inconsistencies in the officer's report, emphasizing how they undermined his credibility. Throughout her presentation, Maya remained composed, despite the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She answered questions from the judge calmly, never letting her emotions get the better of her. Even Officer Harris, who had initially underestimated her, now watched her with a mix of surprise and unease. For the first time, he realized that this wasn't just some naive teenager standing before him. It was a young woman with intelligence, resilience, and an unshakable belief in justice. By the time Maya finished, the courtroom was silent. Judge Carter leaned forward, studying her intently. Then, turning to Officer Harris, she asked him to respond. As he fumbled through his defense, struggling to explain away the discrepancies Maya had highlighted, it became clear that the tide was shifting. The smirk that had once defined his attitude was gone, replaced by a look of discomfort and uncertainty. For Maya, this moment marked a turning point, not just in the case, but in her life. She had proven that she was capable of standing up for herself, even against someone with far more power and authority. But the journey was far from over. Little did she know, the events of this day would ripple outward, inspiring change far beyond the confines of the courtroom. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Maya stepped up to the podium. Her heart raced, but she forced herself to breathe deeply and focus. This was her moment, her chance to prove not just her innocence, but also that justice could prevail against prejudice. She glanced at Officer Harris, who sat smugly in his seat, arms crossed, his face a mask of arrogance. He clearly didn't expect much from a 16-year-old girl standing before him. To him, this hearing was nothing more than a formality, an inconvenience he'd soon forget about. But Maya had other plans. She began by introducing herself to the judge, her voice steady despite the nerves bubbling inside her. "Your Honor," she said, bowing slightly out of respect, "I'm here today because I believe everyone deserves fair treatment under the law, regardless of their age, race, or background." The words felt powerful, rolling off her tongue, and for a brief second she allowed herself to feel proud of how far she'd come. Judge Carter nodded, her expression neutral but attentive. "Proceed," she instructed, folding her hands on the desk in front of her. Maya took another deep breath and launched into her argument. She started with the security footage, explaining how it showed her walking past the convenience store, without stopping or loitering. She pointed out specific timestamps and angles, making sure to highlight details that directly contradicted Officer Harris's claims. As the video played on a small screen set up in the courtroom, murmurs rippled through the audience. Even Judge Carter leaned forward, her brow furrowed as she studied the evidence closely. "Notice, Your Honor," Maya continued, her voice gaining confidence, "that at no point do I linger near the store or behave suspiciously. In fact, I simply continue along my path home. There's absolutely no basis for the accusation of trespassing." Officer Harris shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his earlier smirk fading slightly. He hadn't anticipated Maya presenting such concrete evidence. Up until now, he'd assumed she'd rely solely on emotional appeals, an approach easier to dismiss in court. But Maya's meticulous preparation caught him off guard. Next, Maya called her witnesses. First up was Sarah, one of her classmates who had been walking behind her that evening. Nervously clutching her hands together, Sarah recounted what she had seen, Maya walking calmly down the street, minding her own business, when Officer Harris suddenly approached her. "It all happened so fast," Sarah admitted, glancing nervously at the officer. "But I know Maya didn't do anything wrong." Another neighbor, Mr. Patel, who owned a shop nearby, testified that he hadn't reported any suspicious activity that night. "No one came to me asking questions either," he added, addressing Judge Carter. "If anything, I saw Maya passing by like always. She's a good kid, always polite." Each testimony chipped away at Officer Harris's credibility, painting a clearer picture of what had truly transpired. Maya watched carefully as the officer's demeanor shifted from confident to defensive. His jaw tightened, and he avoided making eye contact with anyone in the room. For the first time, it seemed, he realized he might actually lose this case. After calling her final witness, Maya turned her attention to the inconsistencies in Officer Harris's report. With calm precision, she highlighted the discrepancies she'd uncovered during her research. "According to the police logs," she explained, pointing to a printed copy of the records, "there was no call from the store owner reporting suspicious activity. Yet Officer Harris claims otherwise in his report. How can we trust his version of events when key facts don't add up?" The courtroom fell silent as Maya placed the document on the judge's desk. Judge Carter picked it up, scanning it thoroughly, Her expression remained unreadable, but Maya noticed her lips press into a thin line, a sign that she was taking the matter seriously. Finally, Maya addressed the broader implications of the case. "This isn't just about me," she said, her voice softening but still firm. "It's about fairness. It's about holding people accountable when they abuse their power. If officers like Officer Harris aren't challenged, then who will stand up for those who are unfairly targeted? Who will protect the next person who gets accused without cause?" Her words resonated deeply with those in attendance. Friends, family members, and even strangers nodded in agreement, moved by her courage and conviction. Some wiped away tears, while others whispered words of encouragement to each other. Maya wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She had become a symbol of hope for anyone who had ever felt marginalized or dismissed. When Maya finished speaking, the room erupted into quiet applause. Judge Carter raised a hand to silence the crowd, her gaze fixed intently on Maya. "Thank you, Miss Thompson," she said, her tone measured but respectful. Then, turning to Officer Harris, she asked him to present his side of the story. For the first time since the hearing began, Officer Harris looked flustered. He fumbled through his notes, stumbling over his words as he tried to explain himself. When pressed by Judge Carter about the missing call log and the inaccuracies in his report, he grew visibly agitated. "Look, Your Honor," he snapped, losing his composure. "It was late, and I was doing my job. Maybe there was a mix-up, but I acted on what I thought was suspicious behavior." His excuse fell flat. The damage had already been done. Maya's thorough presentation left little room for doubt about what had really happened that night. Even some of his fellow officers sitting in the gallery exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that Harris had dug himself into a hole he couldn't climb out of. As the hearing drew to a close, Judge Carter announced that she would take some time to review the evidence before delivering her verdict. She thanked both parties for their participation and dismissed the court. Maya walked back to her seat, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. She had given it her all, but the outcome was still uncertain. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed around her, eager to hear her thoughts. Cameras flashed and microphones were thrust toward her face. Questions flew at her from every direction. How does it feel to challenge a police officer? What inspired you to fight this case? Do you think you'll win? Maya paused, gathering her thoughts. Despite the whirlwind of attention, she stayed composed. "I didn't do this for fame or recognition," she said finally, her voice clear and strong. "I did it because it's the right thing to do. No one should be treated unfairly because of who they are or where they come from. I hope this case shows others that they have the power to stand up for themselves, too." Her response earned widespread admiration. News outlets picked up her story, portraying her as a brave young woman challenging systemic injustice. Social media lit up with messages of support, with hashtags like "Justice for Maya" trending nationally. People from all walks of life praised her courage, intelligence, and determination. Strangers reached out to offer words of encouragement, sharing their own experiences of discrimination and thanking her for inspiring them to speak out. Meanwhile, Officer Harris retreated to the sidelines, avoiding the media glare as much as possible. Back at the precinct, rumors swirled about potential disciplinary action against him. His colleagues distanced themselves, unwilling to be associated with someone whose actions had sparked such controversy. The once confident officer now found himself isolated, his reputation tarnished. For Maya, however, the battle wasn't quite over yet. While waiting for the judge's decision, she reflected on everything she had learned throughout this process. She realized that winning the case wasn't just about proving her innocence. It was about exposing the flaws in a system that often failed to protect the vulnerable. It was about showing others that change was possible if they dared to demand. Days passed, and the suspense grew unbearable. Maya spent her time focusing on schoolwork and spending moments with her family, trying to keep her mind off the looming verdict. But late one afternoon, the phone rang. It was her mentor, Mr. Anderson, calling with news. "Maya," he said, his voice brimming with excitement. "The judge has made her ruling. You need to come to the courthouse tomorrow." Maya's heart skipped a beat. Tomorrow would bring closure, one way or another. But whatever the outcome, she knew she had already achieved something remarkable. She had stood up to a powerful opponent, armed only with truth and perseverance. And in doing so, she had ignited a spark of hope that would inspire countless others to follow in her footsteps. The next morning, the courthouse was packed with people eager to hear the judge's verdict. Reporters lined up outside, cameras ready, while inside, every seat in the small courtroom was occupied. Maya arrived early, accompanied by her family, and Mr. Anderson, who had become a pillar of support throughout this journey. Despite her calm exterior, her heart raced as she took her seat. She knew this moment would define not only her future, but also send a powerful message to her community and beyond. Officer Harris entered shortly after, his usual swagger replaced by an air of unease. Gone was the confidence he had displayed during their initial encounter. Instead, he avoided eye contact with Maya and kept his head down, clearly aware that the tide had turned against him. The atmosphere in the room was tense, charged with anticipation. Everyone waited silently as Judge Carter entered and took her place at the bench. "Court is now in session," the bailiff announced, his voice echoing through the quiet space. Judge Carter adjusted her glasses and glanced at the document spread out before her. Then, without wasting any time, she began speaking. After carefully reviewing the evidence presented during this hearing, she said, her tone firm and authoritative, "I have reached a decision." She paused, letting the gravity of the moment sink in. Every person in the room leaned forward slightly, hanging on her next words. In light of the security footage, witness testimonies, and inconsistencies found in Officer Harris's report, I find no credible basis for the charge of trespassing against Miss Maya Thompson. Therefore, the citation is hereby dismissed. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. For a moment, there was stunned silence, followed by murmurs of disbelief and relief. Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she blinked them back, determined to remain composed. Her mother reached over and squeezed her hand tightly, pride shining in her expression. Mr. Anderson nodded approvingly, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. Judge Carter wasn't finished yet. Turning her attention to Officer Harris, she continued, her voice stern. Officer Harris, your conduct in this matter raises serious concerns. Not only did you issue a citation without sufficient evidence, but your behavior toward Miss Thompson reflects poorly on your professionalism. As representatives of the law, officers are expected to uphold justice impartially and treat all individuals with dignity and respect. Your actions here fall far short of that standard. Her words hit like a thunderclap. Officer Harris shifted, uncomfortably in his seat, his face flushed with embarrassment. He opened his mouth as if to protest, but thought better of it. Instead, he stared at the floor, avoiding the judge's piercing gaze. As such, Judge Carter concluded, I am issuing a formal reprimand against you. You will undergo mandatory sensitivity training and submit a written reflection on this incident within 30 days. Furthermore, I will be forwarding my findings to the Police Department's Internal Affairs Division for further review. With that, the gavel came down, signaling the end of the case. Cheers erupted from Maya's supporters, filling the courtroom with a sense of triumph. Friends hugged each other, some wiping away tears of joy. Outside, reporters scrambled to capture reactions, shouting questions at anyone willing to speak. Maya stepped out into the chaos, flanked by her family and Mr. Anderson, feeling both exhilarated and overwhelmed. But the story didn't end there. Just as Maya was about to address the crowd, something extraordinary happened. A local news anchor approached her with a microphone in hand. Miss Thompson, he began, we've heard rumors that you recently participated in a national moot court competition. Can you tell us more about that? Maya froze for a split second, caught off guard. She hadn't planned to reveal this detail. It wasn't part of her strategy for the case. But seeing the sea of curious faces around her, she realized this might be the perfect opportunity to drive home a larger point. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. Yes, that's true, she admitted, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. A few weeks ago, I competed in the National High School Moot Court Championship. My team worked hard and we ended up winning first place. The announcement sent shockwaves through the crowd. Murmurs of surprise turned into applause, growing louder as people processed what they had just heard. Here was a teenage girl, not only challenging a seasoned police officer in court, but also excelling in one of the most prestigious legal competitions in the country. It was undeniable proof of her intellect, discipline, and passion for justice. Even Officer Harris looked stunned, his jaw dropping slightly as the reality sank in. He had mocked her, underestimated her, and dismissed her abilities based solely on his biases. Now standing defeated, he couldn't deny the truth. Maya was smarter, stronger, and more capable than he could have ever imagined. Reporters immediately seized on the revelation, peppering Maya with follow-up questions. "How did you balance preparing for the competition with this legal battle?" one asked. Another chimed in. "Do you plan to pursue a career in law?" Maya answered patiently, explaining how her love for learning and her desire to fight injustice had driven her every step of the way. "I believe education is power," she said, her voice resonating with conviction. "And I want to use that power to help others who don't have a voice. That's why I'm considering becoming an attorney to advocate for fairness and equality in our justice system." Her words struck a chord with everyone present. People began sharing her story on social media, amplifying her message to a global audience. Within hours, Maya Thompson became a trending topic, with thousands praising her resilience and brilliance. Messages poured in from strangers across the country, thanking her for inspiring them to stand up against discrimination and inequality. Back home, Maya's victory sparked conversations in her community. Local leaders organized town hall meetings to discuss racial profiling and police accountability. Schools invited her to speak to students about perseverance and self-belief. Even businesses pledged to support initiatives aimed at empowering marginalized youth. What had started as a personal fight for justice had blossomed into a movement for change. Meanwhile, Officer Harris faced consequences that extended beyond the courtroom. The police department launched an internal investigation into his conduct, scrutinizing past cases where similar patterns of bias might have occurred. Community activists demanded greater transparency and reforms to prevent such incidents in the future. While some argued that the measures weren't enough, others saw it as a step in the right direction. For Maya, life began changing in ways she never anticipated. Universities reached out offering scholarships, impressed by her achievements and determination. She received invitations to speak at conferences and events, sharing her experiences with audiences eager to learn from her example. Yet, despite the newfound fame, Maya remained grounded. She continued focusing on her studies, knowing that her journey was far from over. One evening, sitting at the kitchen table with her family, Maya reflected on everything that had transpired. Her mother placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You've done something amazing, sweetheart," she said softly. "Not just for yourself, but for so many others." Maya smiled, feeling a mix of gratitude and responsibility. "This isn't the end," she replied. "It's just the beginning. There's still so much work to do." And she meant it. Though the court case had concluded, Maya understood that true change required ongoing effort. She vowed to keep pushing boundaries, challenging stereotypes, and advocating for those who couldn't speak for themselves. Her courage and brilliance had already proven that age, race, or background didn't define someone's potential. Now, she was ready to take the next step, turning her dreams into action and paving the way for a brighter, fairer future. As the sun set outside, casting golden hues across the room, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had proven that even the smallest voice could spark monumental change. And with the world watching, she was determined to make sure that change lasted. In the weeks following the court hearing, Maya's life transformed in ways she could never have imagined. The verdict had not only cleared her name, but also ignited a wave of admiration and support from people across the country. Her story became a beacon of hope for marginalized communities, inspiring countless individuals to believe in their ability to challenge injustice. But for Maya, the real work was just beginning. The media attention brought both opportunities: and challenges. Reporters from major news outlets interviewed her, eager to capture her perspective on systemic racism, youth empowerment, and the importance of standing up for one's rights. Social media platforms buzzed with hashtags like Maya Thompson and Youth for Justice. As people shared her story and expressed solidarity, schools invited her to speak at assemblies, where students listened intently to her advice on overcoming obstacles and staying true to oneself. Community leaders sought her input on initiatives aimed at addressing racial profiling and improving police accountability. At first, the sudden spotlight overwhelmed Maya. She wasn't used to being the center of attention, and the constant interviews and public appearances left her drained. Yet she quickly realized that this platform gave her a unique opportunity to amplify her message. Every speech, every interview, every interaction was a chance to remind others that they too had the power to create change. "If I can do it," she often said, "so can you." One of the most impactful moments came when Maya addressed a national conference on civil rights. Standing before hundreds of activists, lawyers, and policymakers, she spoke about the intersection of race, privilege, and justice. Her words were simple yet powerful. Prejudice doesn't just hurt the person it targets, it weakens our entire society. We all lose when someone is treated unfairly because of who they are. But together, we can build a world where everyone is valued equally. Her speech earned a standing ovation, and many attendees approached her afterward to express their gratitude. Some shared personal stories of discrimination, while others asked for guidance on how to advocate for change in their own communities. Maya listened carefully, offering encouragement and practical advice. She emphasized the importance of education, community organizing, and persistence. "Change doesn't happen overnight," she told them, "but every small step counts." Amid the whirlwind of activity, Maya received several scholarship offers from prestigious universities. These institutions recognized not only her academic achievements but also her leadership potential. For a girl whose family had struggled financially for years, these opportunities felt like a dream come true. After much deliberation, Maya accepted an offer from a top-tier university known for its strong law program. It was a decision that aligned perfectly with her aspirations to become an attorney and fight for justice on a larger scale. As Maya prepared for college, her hometown began to reflect the impact of her courage. Local leaders organized workshops and seminars focused on implicit bias training for law enforcement officers. Activists pushed for policy reforms, including stricter oversight of police conduct and clearer guidelines for issuing citations. While progress was slow, the momentum generated by Maya's case kept the conversation alive. People who had once been hesitant to speak out now joined forces, determined to ensure that no one else would face the kind of injustice Maya had endured. Officer Harris, on the other hand, faded into obscurity. Following the judge's ruling, he completed the mandatory sensitivity training, but found himself increasingly isolated within the police department. His colleagues distanced themselves, unwilling to associate with someone whose actions had tarnished the force's reputation. Internal investigations revealed patterns of discriminatory behavior in his past cases, leading to further disciplinary action. Eventually, he resigned quietly, slipping away without fanfare. Though some felt that his punishment wasn't severe enough, others saw his downfall as a reminder of the consequences of unchecked prejudice. Despite her victories, Maya remained humble. She understood that systemic change required more than individual triumphs. It demanded collective effort. With this in mind, she launched a mentorship program for underprivileged youth in her community. Partnering with local organizations, she created workshops designed to teach young people about their legal rights, public speaking skills, and strategies for navigating adversity. The program quickly gained traction, drawing participants from diverse backgrounds who were eager to learn from Maya's example. One of the program's early successes was a 14-year-old boy named Jamal, whose experiences mirrored Maya's in many ways. Like her, Jamal had faced racial profiling and struggled to find resources to help him navigate the system. Through the mentorship program, he learned how to articulate his grievances and seek recourse through legal channels. When Jamal successfully resolved a minor dispute with school authorities, he credited Maya with giving him the tools and the confidence to stand up for himself. Maya's influence extended beyond her immediate community as well. Educators incorporated her story into lesson plans, using it as a case study to teach students about resilience, advocacy, and the importance of challenging authority when necessary. Books and documentaries chronicling her journey entered development stages, ensuring that her legacy would endure for generations to come. Even celebrities and politicians praised her efforts, amplifying her message to wider audiences. Yet, despite all the accolades, Maya stayed grounded. She continued volunteering at her local library, helping younger kids with their homework and encouraging them to pursue their passions. On weekends, she visited her parents, cooking meals with her mother and playing board games with her younger siblings. These quiet moments reminded her of why she had fought so hard, not for fame or recognition, but for the chance to create a better future for herself and those around her. As graduation approached, Maya reflected on how far she had come. From the frightened teenager stopped by Officer Harris to the confident young woman inspiring thousands, her journey had been nothing short of extraordinary. But she knew that her work was far from over. College awaited, along with new challenges and opportunities to make a difference. She envisioned a career dedicated to advocating for marginalized voices, whether in the courtroom, through policy reform, or by mentoring the next generation of leaders. On her last day in high school, Maya stood before her classmates during the farewell ceremony. As valedictorian, she delivered a speech that encapsulated her philosophy. "Life will throw obstacles your way," she said, her voice steady and resolute. "Some will try to tell you that you're not good enough, that you don't belong. But remember this: your worth isn't defined by what others think of you. It's defined by the choices you make, the values you uphold, and the impact you leave on the world." Her words resonated deeply, earning thunderous applause from teachers, peers, and parents alike. Many students approached her afterward, thanking her for inspiring them to chase their dreams fearlessly. One girl handed her a note that read, "Because of you, I know I can be brave." That evening, as Maya packed her belongings for college, she paused to look at the framed photo on her desk. It showed her smiling alongside Mr. Anderson outside the courthouse, the day the verdict was announced. She smiled softly, remembering the retired attorney who had believed in her when she doubted herself. Without his guidance, she might not have succeeded. This realization reinforced her commitment to paying it forward, to being the mentor she had needed during her darkest days. Months later, Maya arrived at her university campus, ready to embrace the next chapter of her life. The sprawling green, lawns, towering libraries, and bustling student centers filled her with excitement and purpose. During orientation week, she introduced herself to fellow freshmen, sharing snippets of her story and encouraging them to get involved in social causes. Already, she was building connections, forming friendships, and laying the groundwork for future collaborations. Her first semester proved challenging but rewarding. Law classes tested her analytical skills, while extracurricular activities allowed her to hone her leadership abilities. She joined the university's legal aid clinic, assisting low-income clients with housing disputes and immigration issues. Each case reinforced her belief in the transformative power of law, a tool not just for punishment, but for protection and empowerment. Back home, her family watched her progress with pride. Her mother framed newspaper clippings featuring Maya's achievements, hanging them proudly on the living room wall. Her father joked that he'd need to expand the house to accommodate all the awards she'd inevitably bring home. Even her younger siblings looked up to her, aspiring to follow in her footsteps. Through it all, Maya carried the lessons she had learned: perseverance in the face of adversity, compassion for those less fortunate, and an unwavering commitment to justice. She knew that the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but she was prepared to face whatever challenges lay in store. After all, she had already proven that she could turn setbacks into stepping stones, and that even the smallest voice could spark monumental change. And so, as Maya settled into her dorm room, surrounded by textbooks and dreams of a brighter tomorrow, she whispered a silent promise to herself. "This is just the beginning. Years passed, and Maya Thompson's journey continued to unfold in ways that inspired not only her hometown, but also communities far beyond. After completing her undergraduate degree with honors, she enrolled in one of the most prestigious law schools in the country. Her professors quickly recognized her brilliance, often remarking on her sharp legal mind and unwavering dedication to justice. During her time in law school, Maya excelled academically while remaining deeply committed to advocating for marginalized groups. She joined student organizations focused on civil rights, participated in mock trial competitions, and volunteered at legal clinics serving low-income families. Each experience strengthened her resolve to use the law as a tool for meaningful change. Upon graduating at the top of her class, Maya returned to her roots. Instead of pursuing lucrative opportunities in big city law firms, she chose to open a free legal clinic in her hometown, the very place where her fight against injustice had begun. The clinic provided pro bono services to those who couldn't afford representation, addressing issues ranging from housing discrimination to wrongful arrests. Word spread quickly, and soon people from neighboring towns began seeking Maya's help. For many, she became a lifeline, a trusted advocate willing to stand by their side when no one else would. The impact of Maya's work extended beyond individual cases. She collaborated with local activists to push for policy reforms within the police department, including mandatory de-escalation training and community oversight boards. These efforts helped rebuild trust between law enforcement and residents, fostering a safer and more equitable environment. Though progress was gradual, the changes were undeniable. People started feeling empowered to speak out against injustices without fear of retaliation, knowing they had allies like Maya fighting alongside them. One particularly transformative case involved a young boy named Marcus, whose story bore eerie similarities to Maya's own. At just 12 years old, Marcus had been wrongfully detained by police after being misidentified during a neighborhood altercation. His family, struggling financially and unfamiliar with the legal system, felt helpless until they heard about Maya's clinic. With Maya representing him, Marcus was exonerated, and the officers involved faced disciplinary action. The victory brought tears of relief to Marcus's parents, who thanked Maya profusely for restoring their faith in justice. But Maya didn't stop there. Recognizing the importance of education and breaking cycles of poverty and inequality, she launched a scholarship program aimed at supporting underprivileged students pursuing careers in law or public service. Funded through donations and grants, the program covered tuition costs, provided mentorship, and offered internships with reputable organizations. Many recipients went on to become lawyers, social workers, and educators, carrying forward Maya's mission of creating a fairer society. Meanwhile, Officer Greg Harris faded further into obscurity. After resigning from the force, he struggled to find stable employment, his reputation irreparably damaged. Rumors circulated that he occasionally worked odd jobs around town. Though few people acknowledged him publicly, some viewed his downfall as poetic justice, while others saw it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked bias. Regardless, his absence served as a reminder of the accountability Maya had fought so hard to achieve. Maya's influence reached national levels as well. She was invited to speak at conferences, universities, and government hearings, where she shared insights on systemic racism, youth empowerment, and the need for comprehensive criminal justice reform. Her speeches resonated deeply, earning standing ovations and sparking conversations long after she left the stage. Media outlets dubbed her the girl who changed the game, highlighting how her courage had catalyzed broader societal shifts. Documentaries chronicling her journey aired on major networks, introducing her story to audiences worldwide. Despite her growing fame, Maya remained humble and grounded. She often credited her success to the support of her family, mentors like Mr. Anderson, and the countless individuals who had stood by her throughout her journey. "I didn't do this alone," she frequently said during interviews. "It takes a village to create change." Her personal life flourished too. In her late 20s, Maya married Alex Carter, a fellow attorney she had met during law school. Together they formed a formidable team, tackling high-profile cases involving civil rights violations and corporate malpractice. Their partnership combined Maya's passion for grassroots advocacy with Alex's expertise in litigation strategy, making them a force to be reckoned with in the legal world. As the years rolled on, Maya expanded her reach even further. She authored a memoir titled Courage Beyond the Courtroom, detailing her experiences from the night she was stopped by Officer Harris to her rise as a champion of justice. The book became an instant bestseller, praised for its raw honesty and inspiring message. Proceeds from sales funded additional scholarships and community programs, ensuring that Maya's legacy of giving back endured. By her mid-30s, Maya had earned numerous accolades, including honorary doctorates and humanitarian awards. Yet, none meant as much to her as the letters she received from people whose lives she had touched. A single mother wrote to thank her for helping win custody of her children after years of battling an abusive ex-partner. A former inmate described how Maya's intervention had prevented his wrongful conviction, allowing him to reunite with his family. And a teenage girl expressed gratitude for Maya's mentorship, crediting her with igniting a lifelong passion for activism. Looking back on her journey, Maya reflected on how far she and her community had come. What had started as a lonely battle against prejudice had blossomed into a movement for equality and fairness. Officer Harris's smirk that once fueled her anger now seemed insignificant compared to the monumental strides achieved since then. The courtroom victory had been important, yes, but it was the ripple effect, the countless lives transformed, that truly mattered. On a crisp autumn morning, Maya stood outside the newly renovated library where her journey had begun. The building now housed a special wing dedicated to youth empowerment, complete with resources for aspiring lawyers, activists, and leaders. As she cut the ribbon during the grand opening ceremony, surrounded by cheering crowds, Maya felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She thought about the scared teenager who had once sat inside those walls, poring over law books and dreaming of a better future. That girl had grown into a woman capable of changing the world, one step at a time. Later that evening, Maya sat at her kitchen table, flipping through old photographs. There was one of her parents, beaming with pride at her high school graduation. Another of Mr. Anderson, his kind eyes twinkling as he offered guidance, and a group shot of her siblings now grown up and carving their own paths. Finally, she paused at a picture taken outside the courthouse on the day of her landmark case. In it, she stood tall, flanked by supporters, her expression a mix of determination and hope. Tears welled up in her eyes, not of sadness, but of gratitude. She realized that every challenge she had faced, every obstacle she had overcome, had led her to this moment. She hadn't just proven Officer Harris wrong. She had proven something far greater, that resilience, compassion, and integrity could move mountains. Maya closed the photo album and glanced out the window. The sun was setting, casting golden hues across the horizon. Somewhere out there, a young person was preparing to take their first step toward justice, inspired perhaps by her story. And somewhere else, a community was coming together to demand fairness and accountability. Change was happening slowly but surely. With a contented smile, Maya whispered softly to herself, "This is what it means to make a difference."